Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. And if you have a question that you would like for me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe notification, and you also hit the bell notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. I upload new videos on this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. With all that being said, let's get into today's email. So this email comes from a person who is struggling with co-parenting, but in particular with her 2 older kids, because they now see the narcissism for what it actually is. And you may have seen videos where I talk about this, where as children get older, because a lot of times when kids are young, people say they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to see it. And I say it all the time that as they get older, they do start to see it. And that's where they're at, but starting to have their own struggles. So let's get into today's email. So this email reads, "Hey Matt, can you please talk more about how to help our young adult kids after they see the mask fall off? With my narcissistic ex of 23 years, or we were together since high school, married almost 20, and I kicked him out in January of 21 after another affair, and he moved on lightning fast with a new supply. The boys are 17 and 20, and they're having a really difficult time dealing with him. Very minimal contact, and when they do see him, they are guilted for what he calls taking sides. And that's very, very common for narcissists to do. They see the manipulation and the lies, but are having an identity crisis, thinking that they will be like him. Or sometimes now they don't believe in true love. The youngest is 7 years old, and I'm going to circle back to the whole true love thing here in a second. I'm going to circle back to the true love and also the identity crisis here in a second. Our youngest is a 7-year-old daughter that he uses to pull them and make them go visit when he has her. She also sees the broken promises and says he's changed life's paths. She sounds like a very mature young woman. So the email continues, "She and I are the only ones in therapy. Divorce trial pending for August 2022. Advice, please." So a lot of the things that we're talking about are very common for kids to get older, and now they're 17, now they're 17 and 20, and now they have their own life, right? I'm sure that they're definitely at driving age. I'm not sure if they're actually driving, but they have their own life. I imagine that they're either working or playing sports or in school, something along those lines, or at least considering it. And so one of the things that happens in situations like this is that, as strange as this sounds, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. And the reason why I say this is that they are feeling the negative effects. The same way that you, right, that you as the parent, and for everyone else who's listening, the same way that you figured it out is the same experience that your children have quite often. They just find out a lot sooner. So this is actually a good thing that they see it. Right now, let's get back to some of the things that you're mentioning, that they're having an identity crisis. That's also very common, right? A lot of times people who I work with, they have the same identity crisis, but as an adult. It's almost like a grieving process that you go through, but you're grieving someone who's still alive, right? You're grieving an adult. For people who have a narcissistic parent, it's like you had this life that you thought that this person was loving, this person was caring and protecting, and then you begin to look back and you start to notice that wasn't the case at all, right? So these are all good things, but however, they likely, number one, I would encourage for them to get into therapy the same way that you and your daughter are, right? I would encourage them, but also understand that it needs to be their decision. Right? Encourage them, support it. And what you can do, regardless if they decide to go to therapy or not, is to begin to validate their feelings. these feelings. So one of the things that's good here, and the reason why I keep on saying this is a good thing, is because they see it, they feel it, right? And so they're able to identify that something's off. They identify them in manipulation. They identify that they're being guilt tripped. So when they come back to you and they say things to you like, Mom, Dad is using our 7-year-old sister as a weapon and as a pawn, right? And begin to validate their feelings. Now, here's where it gets difficult for a lot of parents, because a lot of people will say, well, you shouldn't talk negative about the other parent. That's true. But validating someone else's feelings versus projecting your own feelings are two different things. And you don't want to say, yeah, that asshole used to do that to me. That's you projecting your feelings. You make it about them. When they say, Dad's trying to guilt trip us into going over there because he has our sister. Really? Wow, that's terrible. Like, yeah, that must feel terrible, right? Validate how they feel. Allow for them to open up. Allow for them to dialogue. Allow for them to have conversations, right? Yeah, he does this all the time. What are you going to do about it, right? Ask them questions, right? What do you want to do about it, right? I don't know. There's days I don't want to go over there. I can understand why you wouldn't, right? And you validate, right? You give them the support. You let them know that you're there, and regardless of what they decide, right? We know what they're probably going to eventually decide, right? Based on this email. But what has to happen here is that there needs to be some form of validation, right? They're headed in the right direction, right? Of making a decision of what type of boundaries that they want to have with him. Sometimes they might decide to cut him off completely. Some kids, as they get older, they might decide, well, let's just go low contact, right? And also allow for them to let them know that they can change their mind at any time, right? Let's say that they decide right now, for those of you who are listening who have significant others, I don't encourage changing your mind if this is a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but when this is a parent, you can go 6 months of no contact or low contact and change your mind later on, because there's not it's not the typical type of trauma bond that you might have with a romantic partner, right? And so with family, right, they might decide, right, if he has our sister and he calls and he guilt trips, I'm not going to go over there, right? And a lot of times when they realize that they have your support, that you have their back, and that they have that safety net and they have that validation, quite often that gives them the encouragement that they need. But I also would definitely encourage therapy. I would definitely ask them to come with you and your daughter whenever you guys go, and offer to take care of it, offer to pay for it. I would encourage it in different ways. Even if they go once a month, I think it would be very, very beneficial. So thank you very much for writing in. Anyone else who has a question, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. Be very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure you guys hit the subscribe notification and the bell notification so you're notified every time I upload a new video. Also, make sure you guys check out my podcast for the Matt Pfeiffer Experience. We stream it live here on YouTube every Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. With all that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.